Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Color Commentary Podcast. I'm your host, Ramiro Castro Jr., and today we have a very special guest. We have Pedro! Filling in for Jamar 1 week only. Just like in fantasy football, when your starter goes down, you got to go next man up, and he's a fantastic next man up because he's been editing all our episodes the whole time. Pedro, why don't you introduce yourself and how you got into fantasy football?
Hey, everybody. I started fantasy football about 5 years ago. I was invited for a show that I worked on a million years ago. And a lot of times, I usually am pretty casual. For me, I like to follow the stories of athletes, the stories of teams. And a lot of the times I see particular patterns of how pros play, how teams, their trajectories. And the biggest thing that I like to do is take risks. I'm usually not someone that follows football all the time. I'm not deep into the stats and the minutia that you and Jamar are in, but I really do like the fact that there's really a art and skill in figuring out who scores the most points and figuring out who, basically it's kind of like a gamble. You take your bets, you pick the players that you think you're going to burst, you read on all the stats, you try to get every little nugget of information you can get to give you an edge. And, I see the draw of that. And so in particular, in my team, I've taken a lot of risks.
Yes, you have.
Yes.
I've seen it.
Yes.
So I invited Pedro to a new league I started. I like doing 3. The 2 I were a part of, I wasn't a part of anymore for different reasons. And so I started my own. I called it the Last Minute League on Sleeper. I'd never used Sleeper before. And so I quickly got everyone together and I asked Pedro, hey, would you join? And he said yes. And then he drafted. And the first thing he did right off the bat, 1-1 for him, was who, Pedro?
I drafted Lamar Jackson from Baltimore.
Right. And that's right.
And I realized quickly that maybe drafting a quarterback for your first pick is not the best idea.
It depends. Yes, it depends. Sorry, continue.
I realized that the drafting a quarterback round 1, pick 1 might not be the best idea, because if he goes down and you don't have a strong and if he goes down and you don't have someone who's strong in the bench, because I have Michael Penix on my bench because I took a risk thinking that he had a breakout year or is going to have a breakout year. So I'm a little bit in a struggle right now because I have Spencer Rattler as my QB1. And that's super tough. And so it's just learning really the nuances of picking either a running back or wide receiver, someone who is going to score you a lot of points and isn't going to be so calamitous when they get injured, because you can replace wide receivers and running backs, and maybe there's someone that'll break out. But as we've seen this year, it's very hard for a new quarterback to get their footing.
100%, Pedro. I mean, I appreciate your strategy. I mean, I saw who you picked and I was like, this guy's got balls. He's picking Bill Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt as his running back. He put RJ Harvey in as his running back. And I said, his team may not be good at first, but they could all succeed and his team might get better as you go. And so your quarterback getting hurt, Lamar Jackson is a good, if you're going to pick someone first, he is a good investment. It's just he got hurt. Any player can get hurt. And I have heard that the wise choice is to go wide out because they're not going to get hurt. And this year, it's not playing out that way. We had CeeDee Lamb, one of the biggest wideouts to play the game. He went out. basically week 1, right? And then Malik Neighbors is out for the season. And Terry McLaurin wasn't connecting and now has been out a few games. And so doesn't mean running back hasn't been affected. Omarion Hampton is in a boot on IR. So it's the injury bug. This game, I had this thought that it's not football, it's hurt ball. You're just hurting each other. And whoever survives wins. And sometimes it's about skill, but lately it seems like it's more like a survivor match than it is a game anymore.
I remember the all caps text you sent when Omarion got injured.
Because I like the guy, man. I picked him. I went through my picks with Jamar, and instead of taking Ken Walker or Breece Hall, I was like, I'm going to go for the second highest rated running back who was going 3 rounds later than Ashton Genty. And it was proving to be right. He scored 2 20-point games in a row, weeks 3 and 4. Week 5 looked like he was off okay start, and now he's hurt, and now I don't know how long he's hurt. And so you got to go fishing. I go running back fishing every year. I pick up a few late rounders, and you never know who's going to pop, right? So I like your risky strategy, Pedro. I did. And so we can go through. This is your matchup. I'm going to make it a little bigger. All right. He's Knuckles up, Sonic and Knuckles. I'm surprised he didn't draft David Montgomery with that name, but he had to put in Spencer Rattler. Here's Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Excellent, excellent game. This is a risk that played out very well for Pedro.
Yes, he finally broke out this week. I mean, I had to really be patient because the last few weeks he was getting single-digit points for me. And so this past Sunday, he finally broke out with 26 points, with 14 carries, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only just 1 fumble. But very solid, very solid. That kind of prevented it from being a blowout from last week.
It was a respectable score. Getting around 100 ain't bad. I mean, on the other side, it's our cousin Louie. Sup, Louie, if you listen. He had Carson Wentz. Okay. Why? Because probably, I don't know why he benched Baker Mayfield. He must have been afraid of the matchup. And then I don't know why he benched David Montgomery. And he has, wow. So Pedro, you might want to trade for something. His bench is fantastic. Khalil Shakir, what's going on here? I'm getting distracted by those assets, but here we are. RJ Harvey, who looked great last week, dudded this week, right? Mm-hmm. And so you never know. Looks like they're still giving the rookie a shot. And J.K. Dobbins, Dr. One Leg, sometimes he gets hurt. And so far, so good. He's actually younger than people think. I think he's only 26, J.K. Dobbins. But right now, RJ Harvey's just waiting for his opportunity. And you can see sometimes your studs fail you. Here's James Cook getting not even 5 fantasy points for our cousin Louie on the other side. Jamar Chase goes off. I had him last year. That was the magic of Jamar Chase. Your team can be doing terribly, and he will pop off. He took a nice risk here with Rashid Shaheed. That's impressive, right? He's either going to boom or bust, and he boomed this time. Michael Pittman gets almost the same score every week. It's incredible.
Yeah, he was another risk that I took. And I remember when we were drafting, I was asking you and our brother Sergio, and I was kind of figuring out, I think this was maybe in the later rounds. I asked you and Sergio a question about Indy's offense. And it was how often do you think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot? Like, how often is Daniel Jones going to be throwing the ball? And I think you said, you know what, he's probably going to be throwing it a lot this year. And so I was like, all right. So I saw that Michael Pittman was available, and I took him in. And he was actually my flex option way back when. He's been very consistent, getting double-digit points for me. He's pretty much my wide receiver 1 at this point, because as you can see above him is A.J. Brown, and I'm just like, oh. He was literally my
A.J. Brown. I sang a song about him last week. I have him on another one of my fantasy teams, and he had a lot of targets again. He's only had a lot of targets 4 out of the 5 weeks, and he hasn't been able to turn them into much except for week 3. And his teammate Devonta Smith did the opposite. He got over 100 yards. And so there were a couple of missed targets and throws and some pass interferences that might have changed the game here. AJ Brown is getting fed the ball. It's just he's kind of throwing up when he gets it. So that can be frustrating, right? I was very high on AJ Brown. I thought that he, who wasn't? He would have been a great wideout one on a great offensive team. And my thought was there's no way that Barkley can do the same things he did last year as this year. So they're going to have to throw the ball more at some point. And we started to see it week 3. It went away again in week 4, and it came back in week 5. It just wasn't very successful.
Yeah, it was so disappointing because if he were supposed to play the way that he's supposed to, I probably would have won my games. The thing about Sleeper is that they'll make these like projections, and AJ Brown considerably underperforms those projections every time. And in my opinion, those projections are actually a little conservative, and AJ Brown is not even meeting that.
That's true. Yeah, projections are very annoying. They basically make you question who you're picking every week. And so, it's not something to always go off of because no one's good at projecting. Everybody's sort of guessing. And so it's a guess. They look at like how well each player has done historically, and they're guessing that they might have, they'll say they have 0.2 touchdowns or something, which is like a 20% chance of scoring a touchdown. So let's go through Pedro's matchups. You can see that he scored 80 points in week 1 versus Touchdown Diva. We dive in and we see that if AJ Brown scores some points, Pedro took some risk. Caleb Johnson's here, but wow, did Lamar Jackson do great. Dunze's in here. So Pedro lost that production last week because they were on a bye, right? So Matthew Golden is another one that he's hanging on to. But here's Pittman on the bench, right? Because we don't know what's going on. And he has Penix also. And then we have Bill scoring a ton on the bench. So that's just week 1. Who knows what happens week 1? All right, let's start again. Pedro wins this time off the backs of Lamar Jackson. Pittman goes in, but again, AJ Brown disappoints. Ferguson, Pedro's got 2 excellent tight ends, and Rome Odunze booms. And so, Mims is here. Mims is very boom bust. It's always tempting to put him in your lineup. Pedro wins week 3, which makes sense. Why? Because AJ Brown did fantastic. And so both him and Pittman are doing great. Ferguson's here. Jackson Harvey hasn't done anything yet. Odunze's there keeping the floor awesome. And then Tampa Bay does great. So Pedro hasn't streamed defenses. He also has Goddard. And let's get to week 4. Week 4, Pedro loses. That's the week Lamar Jackson gets hurt. So how could he win that week? That's a lot of points to make up. And we see AJ Brown getting not even 2 points, and Tampa Bay is here as well. So Pedro, like going through each week, can you self-assess? Do you see, is there anything you could be doing to improve your team going forward?
Well, I definitely need a wide receiver. And so, I kind of look at if I were to rewind what I would have repicked, I think I still would have taken Lamar Jackson because injuries, there's really nothing you can do. Honestly, I would have started different people. I think I would have picked the same players because my biggest surprise, my delightful surprise was Odunze.
Yes.
He was great. He's been, double-digit points every single week. And that's also what killed me this past week because he was in a bye week. And he's going to be breaking out as one of the best wide receivers in football right now. I think with Harvey and Mims, week 4, they did great. Harvey had 17 points. Mims had 17 points. And they were on my bench.
Yeah.
But then the following week, week 5, Harvey has 4.5 points for me, and Mims 2.9 points against Philadelphia, which was a tough team, but I think what's hard is that when you see your bench players doing really well one week, obviously you want to slot them in as your starters. And so you're taking a risk putting people on your bench, putting them as your starters, and then they fall, flat on your face. So that's tough to do, because if we remember what Jamar was saying a couple weeks ago about practicing patience, that's what I've been doing, because I know that after week 8, week 9, the team identity really starts to go into focus. And I believe that players really start to break out and really start to be productive. You know which players are going to be studs, and you know which players might need a little bit more time, or they're just not going to get it done.
Got it. Yeah, Pedro, you took some risks, and when you see your bench blow up, you do what a lot of people do, and you start those players. And I think you need to actually look a little bit further into why and how volatile those things might be. Mims is a very volatile player. So is RJ Harvey. So if you're chasing those points, you're talking about building a story. So you want to look at the opponent. Is the opponent going to get dunked on? Then those players may or may not show up. It just depends. If it's a difficult game and they're going to be scoring a lot of points versus a division rival, perhaps, or some other team. For instance, this Monday night game versus Jacksonville and the Kansas City Chiefs was excellent to start, because they were going to throw a lot and a lot of people got fed. Even Travis Hunter almost scored double-digit points, right? So that would be a good boom game. Some players to play, one of our league mates played Hunt and he scored 2 touchdowns. So like they took the risk and he ended up cashing in. Any other time, I would say, I don't know, Hunt might just score 6 points, right? But if it's going to be a fight, that's what you want. You want to focus on high scoring opportunities, and then you put the riskier players in. Otherwise, you may want to hang back and see. And so I'm also curious about your defense, Tampa Bay. Would you stream defenses, or do you feel like that's just too much upkeep for you?
Well, you put on a really good point where I'm realizing that, because I'm usually a casual fan with football and a casual fantasy football player. And through this experience, I'm realizing like how much study you really need to do to make sure that you are grinding out those wins and that you are making these picks, because I'm seeing the top performers in our league and being amazed, like, how do they know to pick that person to blow up, or how do they know to, sit that person out, and really kind of splitting hairs where, okay, there's a player on your team that will score 20 points, but you started a person that would score 26 points. And sometimes that makes all of the difference. Because I know in some of your leagues, Ramiro, that I think there was one game that you squeaked out with a few percentage points. And so it's just those little granular things when you look through everything, the statistics, the story, the schedule. I was surprised that Odunze and Golden were off that week. That caught me off. And I think if I would have thought about that when picking my players, maybe that would have changed things. But again, it's all a risk. But it's just these a lot of these unknowns that you have to account for that I haven't accounted for, and now I'm really playing catch up.
I think you're doing great for someone who only played twice in 5 years, right? Or once in 5 years. You're taking risks which often pay out. going safe in fantasy usually means you have last year's team, and last year's team isn't going to win this year. So if you went with a Barkley or Derrick Henry, those players are starting to go down, 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 because when you look at the usage of those players, they were used a whole heck of a lot. And oftentimes, historically, like 29 times out of 30, they're going to do less well, and sometimes way less well. And when I listen to analysts, they talk about that all the time. They talks about the data points. And so that's where you change your mind from fantasy football being the lottery to it being poker. There is strategy. There are things that you want to understand, the chances of something that's going to happen. And that kind of study actually gave me the confidence to go into the stock market about 10, 15 years ago. I was doing a lot of fantasy football, and I was like, you know what? This is actually a skill you can port over to other areas in life. And picking stocks and researching companies is very similar to researching players and when they're going to pop and when they're not going to. So for stocks, it's every quarter there's a report, and that's when things can go low and go down. You want to buy when it goes down. So a mishap happening to a major company and the stock goes down could be a great buying opportunity because they're not going to be down for long. So like if Apple ever goes down for some reason, Apple 17, iPhones don't sell as well and people are selling, that might be a time to buy because that's a minor blip. They have too good of a company culture to fail. So ultimately, Pedro, you are learning, which is great. We're only 5 weeks in. You're 2-3. You're not 1-4 or 0-5. So you've picked some great boom players. And I think that's where it's understanding the bye weeks and looking ahead a little bit and looking at the waiver wire. And my favorite time to look for players are actually after the waiver wire, because then they're free to pick up and you can move around.
Yes, I agree with that. So I wanted to go through a little bit of some of my risks, just to explain. It'll be like 2 players.
I'd love to hear the story. So
yeah.
I think that is a strength of yours. You do read a lot of like ESPN articles and these players. And so you picked up Matthew Golden, who could be a great player in the future.
Yes. So a lot of the times when, I don't watch a lot of games, but I read a ton of sports journalism. Anything on ESPN, anything on Fox Sports, any story. I'm a very story-driven, consumer of sports. And a lot of times I see similar patterns of particularly players breaking out. And a lot of the times, especially in football, I feel that right now we are breaking into a new generation of stars. We are in the post Mahomes, post Allen. Not to say that they're going to be bad anytime soon, but they have already established. And
or you could say they're at their peaks, right?
Yeah.
Like they're at their peak, which means there's a new generation that has to take the mantle, right? These are it's like the Tom Brady of this era is Mahomes. And so, I'm trying to think of another good quarterback from that time, but this is an era where you can say Allen and Mahomes are at their peak, and at some point it falls.
Yeah, and at some point, some young player is going to break out because there's always going to be a new star. And my bet was that Michael Penix was going to be one of those breakout players. The jury is still kind of out on him. He really teased me week 1. He had
he did great.
He had a really great game, and I thought, I was like, yes, this is going to work. He's going to be the new star. I really liked his story because he was played for not that big of a university, University of Washington, I believe. And he had an injury history, but I kept hearing from all the scouts, from Colin Cowherd, of just like this energy and the way that he carries himself and the way that he's played in a lot of these games, which aren't like big collegiate games, but it seems that Penix, he's really good at handling chaos. And so when the Falcons decided to go with him over Kirk Cousins, who is a pretty good quarterback, really good quarterback, I thought that spoke volumes on what the potential that Michael Penix had. So I'm going to stick with him in my bench just to see if he breaks out. I am going to start him this week since Lamar Jackson is going to be out again this week, and probably next week since I believe they are going to go into a bye, that the Ravens are going to go into a bye. So that's Penix.
So really quick about Lamar Jackson, he has an outside chance of playing. So you just want to make sure you monitor that. He may or may not play. It'll be against a tough opponent, the Rams. So, but he'll find a way to score points. So I'm curious, was it Matthew Golden was your risk, or RJ Harvey, Krosky Merritt?
I think my risk was Krosky Merritt. I think because I really like Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's an amazing quarterback. He is I think he cemented himself as one of the newest crop of stars. And I remember you and Jamar were talking him up, I think, during the draft, thinking that he's going to be great. He's going to be really good. He's a younger player. It is my theory that in fantasy football, the best performers are rookie running backs. And that is because the opposing teams don't have any tape on him yet. They don't know how to deal with him. They don't know what he can do. Whereas I think, the peak of a running back is about 2-3 years, and then he's usually figured out. And unless he's injured out of the league, or, he becomes someone that is just like an Adrian Peterson or someone who's just legendary. Usually running backs have 2-3 good years, and then, we move on to the next. And so with Krosky Merritt, I thought he had a really great upside. I thought that, with rookies, it was a risk taking a rookie on, but if they blow up, they usually do really, really great the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think you're right. There is a lot of potential for rookies to do great. We've seen it all year with Ashton Genty, Amarian Hampton when he was healthy. Now we're seeing it with Jacoby Krosky Merritt, and they have fresh legs. Let's face it. This is, again, hurt ball. And so there are some running backs that are doing great, like James Cook, that people were fading mostly because they didn't believe that he would do it again. And he did, and he proved everybody wrong. And so running backs are the most age-dependent position that you have. As they approach year 30 of their lives, they almost always have a regression or an injury risk. And we've seen that with Aaron Jones, already out for the foreseeable future. We've seen that with James Conner, who's out. And we even see it with some young guys. Trey Benson's out too. And so you want to look for youth with running back. Usually it's their second, third, fourth years where they start to really peak. But rookies are great values, especially the ones that didn't have the names. So Jacoby Krosky Merritt was someone you probably drafted pretty late.
Yes, and now he's my RB1.
Yeah, you drafted him in the sixth round, which is actually pretty high for him. But I think you must have had his story in your head.
Yeah, and also running backs and wide receivers are at a premium. That's usually, by the time I got to Krosky Merritt, the cupboard was already kind of empty.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go into, these rookies. And this is a theory that I've had for a long time, even before I started getting into fantasy football, where a lot of breakout players, especially in football, is primarily because the teams don't have tape on them yet. And the best case scenario would be like a Carson Wentz, where he went 15-1 because it was his rookie season and no one figured him out yet. And usually the best players are the ones that kind of reinvent themselves and are able to outsmart the other opposing team's defense.
Yeah, you're seeing that with Sam Darnold, right? Last year, he broke out under Kevin McConnell's coaching, and people thought he was done. Like, literally, people were saying he's going to be bagging groceries next season, and he did fantastic. He's arguably doing better this year with Seattle. And so there are players that can be reborn depending on the system, the coaching, and also that quarterbacks are thrown into the fire at a rate that is not sustainable. So if you throw a rookie out into the mess, we've seen it with JJ McCarthy, he's having a lot of issues. Cam Ward is having a lot of issues. But you're seeing someone like Caleb Williams play pretty well so far, and we're only going to see him improve. He had a tough rookie year. Not everyone comes out and Jaden Daniels is the football, and you can see that Jaden Daniels got hurt. So he is good, not as good so far. He is having a sophomore slump, but Pedro, I like your storytelling. I would advise you the next time you draft, I think you need to balance this a little bit more. You need to find some strong, consistent running back to pair with your risks. So someone, to think about would have been like a James Cook, right? He's right there on the other opponent's team. He's a tried and true. He's got a role at that team. And if you had him and then you picked up Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, now you have both strengths. You have a running back that isn't being picked in the first, second, not maybe third round, and you can pair it with these risks. And I think you would have a very strong team from the draft.
Yeah. You hit it right on the head, because my other running back slot is Harvey from Denver. And again, he's another rookie, and he's not playing out as well as I thought he would. He's been pretty inconsistent. And it's also like Bo Nix has been playing really, really well, but I think they're really more doing a passing game, more of a running game, where I think with Washington, they're really are running the football quite a bit. And so what's happening with my team is that there's these inconsistent boom and busts where there's 3 players on my team that are doing great, but then there's 3 others that are just putting in like terrible numbers.
I think when you picked AJ Brown, you were thinking this is going to be an anchor of my team.
Yeah, he was my second pick, I believe. He was my second pick.
There it is.
So I was like, okay, great. Like I see like everyone's talking about him. Sleeper is saying that he's being rostered at like 99%, being started like 97%. So if everyone is thinking that AJ Brown is going to perform well, someone like me who's more on the casual side of fantasy football, I would be like, yeah, no brainer. No brainer.
Well, look, listen, here we are last year. His stats are here. He played week 1, got hurt week 2, and he was out, a month. He scored 20 points. He came back and was like, I'm still here. 20 points, 17, 10, 4, 13, 9, 29, 6, 20, 19, 11. So if I really went back and looked week to week, I should have known there was volatility. I think I didn't have him on my team last year, and the only times I knew about him was when he blew up. And so it seemed like he was blowing up every week, but he did have these dud games in here. It's here. It's here in the data. I just ignored it because it was like, well, what if he plays all year? I'm going to see more of these 20s, right? And like when he was healthy, he's going like 20, 10, 10, 4, 13, 9, 20. So he's going to have more volatility. And I should have saw that coming. You mentioned people who play this all the time. I mean, I just thought that, I didn't see a 2 in here, right? There's zeros because he got hurt, but we didn't see a 2 ever. And this is a year where he's had under 2 points twice already. And so that's the frustrating part. 5, 6, fine. Like I get it. Maybe you didn't get in the end zone, but that was what was so scary was getting under 2 points, because that is so hard to make up with your other teammates.
Yeah, week 1, he only had 1 reception for 8 yards. So I'm sure a lot of fantasy football players wanted to throw up just seeing that. And what's hard is I remember you and Jamar, I believe in week 4, we're talking about patience. And there was a point in that podcast where, Ramiro, you were saying that if I want to get rid of a player, usually the next week they do really well. And I think that's a lot of reluctance that I have. I'm like,
Sure.
I don't know if AJ Brown is going to be it. I don't know if this is going to continue. Should I try to trade him? Should I let him go? Because I don't want to be in that scenario where, like, obviously he's not performing, but then next week he ends up putting a 20 burger on. And that's always like the back and forth when dealing with players that aren't performing well, that are getting
Correct.
single digit points when they're projecting to do at least 12, at least 15, maybe 20. But when you have someone like AJ Brown, where, he had 1.9 points, he had 5 in week 1, he had 1.9 points in week 1, barely 5 points in week 2, week 3.
Week 3, we were like, okay, we're back in it. Right?
Yeah, we're back. I'm like, back. Okay, great. And I won. And that was great. Like, I think I won before Sunday was over, And then
if we look at the pattern, it's dud, boom, dud, boom. He might boom this week, but that might, Pedro, for you, the way that you've constructed your team, you can't have a boom bust wideout one. You just can't, because you have too many risks on your team. You need to find a way to even things out, get a more consistent wideout for AJ Brown, right? So that's something that we're going to talk about today. Pedro and I are going to have a trade today on the podcast. He's going to look at my team. I'm going to suggest some players, and I'm going to see if he will let go of AJ Brown for one of my players on my bench. Welcome to our very first live trade. Pedro is in my league. I am shopping for a wideout. I know Pedro's frustrated with AJ Brown. I'm a little scared to pick up AJ Brown, but I am interested. So Pedro, here's my squad. You can go shopping. Like, tell me, what do you want to know from me in order to make this trade happen?
My needs are this. I need another wide receiver or another productive running back, because this week I'm going to have Odunze back. And basically my wide receiver 1 will be Pittman. Odunze will be my wide receiver 2. And then I'll probably pick like a tight end or something for my flex.
Sure.
Besides Goddard. So I really need someone who now that I think about it, I probably would want another productive running back, because I do feel good about the 2 wide receivers I have. They are productive. They've been very consistent. And so having another wide receiver, even though it could be a good flex option, I'm being killed with running back right now. So I think if I were to go shopping and looking at your team.
Right. So let's look at your team really quick. So I think you're right. You need another running back until RJ Harvey is the starter, if he ever becomes the starter, right? That may not ever happen. And the flex, you can put 2 tight ends. So you have the joy of having Ferguson and Goddard right now. Ferguson being wideout 1, who you picked in the 11th round, and Goddard, who you got off waivers. They're both doing great at the moment. You have a Odunze on the bench. He was on the bye this week. You have Golden. So your wideouts you feel pretty good about, and you're deciding who's going to be in your flex. I do see the same problem, Pedro, that your running backs are really thin. I only see 2. And so you're going to have bye weeks affecting those players as well. And I'm curious when that'll happen for you. Let's see. RJ Harvey. His bye week is late, isn't it? Yeah, it's week 12. And then Crosky Merritt is also week 12. So Pedro, your buy-Mageddon is coming week 12. You'll have no starting running backs.
Oh man,
week 12. So it's important to look into the future and see who's on your team. And so you do have a running back issue more than anything.
Yes, I realize that now. Yeah, week 12, I'm not going to have anybody, and I might have to.
And it'd be tough to let go of some people, right? You have a good team, so who are you going to let go? You have players that you're betting on. You have two great tight ends. And so you might not just want one running back from me. You may need to go shopping and get another running back and drop somebody that you may not need or trade. You have two great tight ends. Do you need to? I don't think so. But like, here we go. So go first, Pedro. You have a
Yes. Question? Well, I wanted to go back. That's what happened to me last week, where in order for me to get Spencer Rattler, I had to jettison Chris Rodriguez from Washington because I was not confident in having two running backs in the same team. But that's what I had to do to get a quarterback, because it was a collision of not only Lamar being hurt, but Penix was on a bye. So I had no quarterback. So I really had to go into the garbage and get Spencer Rattler, who did okay. I think he did like 15 points, but I had to lose a running back to do it. And I definitely don't want to repeat that same mistake.
So the next time that happens, Pedro, if somebody's ruled out, you can actually move them from your bench. And we have one IR slot, injured reserve slot for someone to go. So you could move Lamar Jackson into your injured reserve, and then you have an extra spot to pick somebody else up.
That would work, except that I have George Kittle.
Oh, you already have George Kittle. That's right. And you want to keep him.
I already have him.
Okay.
So I have all these tight ends.
So this was a 1 week replacement. I think losing Rodriguez was the right choice. You do kind of want to have one wiggle position to drop somebody that you're like not super sure about. But like everyone else, like I said, maybe Mims. I think about losing Mims. I'm not super hyped on him. Like he's going to be boom bust. But it just depends if you feel like, yeah, like you can see he had one good week out of 5. He's someone you could probably wiggle and upgrade at running back, in my opinion.
So let me ask you this. We've talked about A.J. Brown just not being great this week and not being great all year. Been very inconsistent. So what is motivating you to even consider trading for him?
The biggest motivator for me is the fact that I lost Malik Neighbors. So I had a wideout one, someone that I was super psyched about, and I have Nico Collins as well. And so I still believe that A.J. Brown will do well and that my team is built to weather the storm of that wideout. For instance, even if I trade you for him, I don't have to start him. I have Diggs and Olave. Diggs was someone I was banking on to show up later in the year, and he did. He had a great game against the Buffalo Bills. He scored almost 20 points. I didn't start him. I didn't start him last year, so now I'm like, wheels up, baby. I'm starting him from now on. He is now my wideout 2, if not my wideout 1, depending, and I have Nico Collins on bye. So looking into next week, I can start Nico again, and I have Nico and Diggs, and so I can afford to just wait it out, right? Like I can start Nico and Diggs, and I have pretty good running back depth. I've been saving as many running backs on my bench as I can, and so this is an opportunity for me to let go of one of the running backs and get that wideout 1 in case another wideout goes out, or if A.J. Brown does turn it around, then I'm there for it.
All right. So let's look through what you have, because
sure.
What's great about hearing about your strategy is that you already have a contingency of, hey, if A.J. Brown is not going to work out, that's fine. I have other players that can back up. I'm still going to do fine.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have a lot more urgency because I really don't have any running back production other than Krosky Merritt. And because of that, I'm probably going to lose my game. So you have leverage because I'm going to need someone who can produce now and willing to lose out on potential of A.J. Brown, who by all accounts is still a really great player, but for some reason the strategy has not been great for him. Neither when he has been called upon, he hasn't been executing. So I'm looking through your running backs right now, and what I'm kind of circling on is actually I'm either interested in Breece Hall or Cam Scatteraboo. I think, I see, again, I'm just going off of what they did last week, and they seem to be doing quite well. How do you pronounce the name? Dowdle?
Dowdle.
I'm looking at Dowdle, and he's your flex. 30 points?
Yeah, he had a crazy blow-up week. So I picked him up off waivers as soon as I found out that Chuba Hubbard was out. And Miami Dolphins, this is why you have to look up the matchups. The Miami Dolphins have led up so many yards, like 100+ yards almost every week. And so I thought he would do well. I didn't think he was going to do this well. He actually saved my week because I had a few duds. And so we can go quickly back to the matchup. I won with 120 points. I started Scatteraboo, Hurts, Breece Hall, Nico Collins, Chris Olave, Kelsey, Dowdle. And here is where things didn't go right for me. Schrader got hurt, which is really rare for a kicker. And then the Philadelphia defense, I think I liked them because they scored touchdowns a lot, and I thought that they would do well this week. And so I overfavored them, and they only scored 2 points. And so my kicker and my defense did not show up, and Rico Dowdle more than made up for it. And then a few other of my players were on the bench who did well. Rashad White did well with 21 points, taking over for Bucky Irving. And so there's just been so many injuries, Pedro, that we're seeing some of the backups really rise up to the occasion.
Yes, absolutely. So again, that plays into my story philosophy of backups and rookies. Eventually, one of them is going to break out, and eventually they are going to be that top dog that no one has an answer for yet.
Yep.
So I'm looking through my own team, and what makes this a little difficult is that I see the matchup with Harvey. And he's going up against the Jets this week. And the Jets have been playing terrible all around. But I think, as we mentioned before, he's not the number one. So I don't think that he's going to be given the ball that much. And also, I'm looking at, I have all of these tight ends. I have Ferguson, I have Goder, and I have Kittle, who's on the IR, who will be coming back. And so I am willing to give up A.J. Brown and maybe even trade away a tight end for one of your running backs and maybe someone that I could also flex into.
You're spicing up the sauce. I wasn't prepared for this. So Pedro is looking at his lineup and you're assessing it correctly. You have too many tight ends. So you need to either let go of a tight end, dropping them, or maybe unloading them to me, right? Like I have Travis Kelce, who I'm a fan of. He's underperforming, but I didn't pick him to do amazing. I picked him to just kind of be there and score points. He's not someone I'm relying on. In past years, people would draft him and rely on him to score double-digit points, which he's only done twice. I did pick him really early, and that was a mistake. I shouldn't have picked him around 6. I should have tried for 7 or 8. And tight ends this year have not been great. So, that was a mistake on me. But also, I think as the year goes on, we've seen it last year that Travis Kelce and Mahomes tend to click more as the year goes on. I think that there is upside here for Kelce. I'm not against having another tight end. I mean, it's tough for me to carry two. I think that there's too many really great running backs. So Pedro identified two running backs on my team, Breece Hall and Scatterboo. So Breece Hall for me has high draft capital with my 4th round pick. I also am seeing him finally start to do double-digit points on a consistent basis. Pedro, I'm sorry to say, I am not going to trade Breece Hall. He is one of my cornerstones of my team, and I do believe in better things coming for him in the future. Even though the Jets aren't great, I do see the talent. Cam Scatterboo, however, I am a little bit more interested in. I think he can continue to succeed. As you can see, the projections have him at 12 points consistently. And we have Tyrone Tracy, who may or may not come back. He did fumble this last game, but this would be maybe tasty for you because it's another rookie running back. It's not exactly like, I think that you're going to be okay. I think he's going to be consistent. And so that is interesting for me to see about getting AJ Brown. It's kind of like a 1-for-1 in some ways. And then I was surprised you didn't consider J.K. Dobbins. He's been very, very consistent for me, and you have R.J. Harvey. So if J.K. Dobbins ever were to go down, you would have R.J. Harvey right there ready to pick up the scraps.
However, I still run into that problem where they're not going to play week 12.
That's right.
I won't have anybody.
You have
and I see Dobbins. I also see Dawdle, and like, I don't want to. I mean, I'm sure you probably want to hang on to him, but I don't know if that game is ending up a fluke. I mean, it was against Miami. Miami is not doing great. I think Mike McDaniel is going to get fired mid-season at some point. So I really don't think, and I doubt that you're going to want to get rid of him since he.
Well, you never know. When you're trading with someone, you never know. So you should definitely make the ask. And so we don't know how long Chuba Hubbard's going to be out. If he comes back, do they split the carries? Is Dowdle breaking out? He did well last year. He was a 1,000-yard rusher with the Cowboys. He does have an easy matchup coming up. They haven't changed the projections as if he's the lead back yet. He may be splitting carries, but you saw he had a boom week right here. And so it is a little bit tough for me to let him go. They're all kind of tough for me to let go. I'm very happy with the depth I have. And Pedro, is it because you're not interested in the Bears this year? You didn't even look at DeAndre Swift yet.
I actually haven't seen I'm also looking at Rachaad White, which is like, man, you got a lot of running backs. So that's another tip is like, I got to stock up my running backs next time
100%. So in my draft episode, I talked about how I want to pick up as many running backs as I can, at least 3 on my bench, because of how often running backs get hurt in this league. The next man up is very, very valuable. And so I picked up Scatterboo really late. I think it was maybe it was like a mid-round pick. He was round 10 for me, but I'd heard good things about him. And I was excited for his talent. And J.K. Dobbins, I know how well he did last year with the Chargers, and I picked him round 9. So I was just like, let me just pick up these insurance running backs and see. J.K. Dobbins has moved up as to one of my starters right now because he's just been so consistent, and consistency is key in fantasy. And, Breece Hall has been somewhat consistent. Funny enough, not as consistent as J.K. Dobbins. Rachaad White is a roller coaster. We don't know how long Bucky Irving is out. And so I have quite the dilemma. And so Pedro, you're also thinking about a tight end. I don't know if I want a tight end. We could try to do a 2-for-1. Like if you really believe in Scatterboo, AJ Brown, I'll double down on my Eagles. AJ Brown and Goddard for Scatterboo, I would do for sure.
Okay, would you be able to trade if I offered AJ Brown and Goddard, and then I got back Swift and Rachaad White?
Ooh, Swift and Rachaad White. I don't know if I'm going to give up 2 running backs, Pedro. I think that's the issue. So we're either going to do like a 1-for-1 depending on how I feel. Like if you're interested in DeAndre Swift, I could do a 1-for-1 with AJ Brown.
Okay. Let me throw another scenario at you.
All right. This is the negotiation part. To me, I don't think people do this enough in fantasy. They do it all through text, and to be honest, it's a lot more interesting because hearing Pedro talk and going through scenarios, it's a lot more enticing to me. Like if Pedro were to sweeten something and kind of wiggle my players away. Like for me, at the end of the day, Pedro, I don't have to trade. I can just stick with my team and sort of be okay. I'm not going to give my players away either. And so there are some where I'm willing to let go and some that I'm less excited about. So it's just sort of like finding the right fit.
And if anyone has any comments about what I should have done or what Ramiro should have done, please put them in, because I definitely want to be better at this. And so I'm just kind of going through basically my gut and just seeing what the numbers are in front of me. And, you see, I'm sure like Ramiro's desk, you got like 3 screens and you got like different types of stats that you're able to have access to. And I'm just kind of seeing like, well, again, like a lot with my own, like, okay, maybe this pattern might work, maybe this thing. So I'm very interested to see how other people would have.
Yeah.
This. I mean, at some point, like I'm not willing to drop AJ Brown straight up. I want to try to at least.
You want to? Okay.
I wanted to get some value from him, and since you've expressed interest, like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, do I risk having AJ Brown score 4 points this week, or do I have some more certainty in getting a running back that is at least going to score 10?
Pedro, what's your offer? Who are you looking to get? I am interested in AJ Brown limitedly. I do want more wide receiver depth. My team does not have a lot of depth. I basically have Diggs, Collins, and Olave. And I don't think that's going to make a championship team for me. I'm looking for someone with a little bit more upside, which is why I'm AJ Brown shopping.
Yeah, and I'm looking for kind of like win now, because I don't want to fall to 2 and 4. So, well, here's something. Would you take AJ Brown and Golden for Breece Hall?
AJ Brown and Golden for Breece Hall. I don't believe in Golden as much as you do. I'm not as interested in Golden because of the variance on the Packers. I think he will do something, but some days it's Romeo Doubs, some days it's not. So there's a couple of scenarios I want to introduce you to. Are you interested in a 1-for-1, first of all? Like one running back for AJ Brown? Like, would you just take one of these? Let's take Breece Hall off, unless so let's look at his stats. I mean, I see better days. Denver, I don't know. I know the talent's there, so I would have to. If you really want Breece Hall,
because what I'm basically giving up is, I know that AJ Brown does better later in the season. Yeah, it's win now, basically, for me, because I don't want to fall behind, and I know like wide receiver, I have that almost locked in, but I definitely need that consistent running back, which I don't have, and maybe Krosky Merritt could be that guy, but that's been a position that, other than having AJ Brown, that's what I've been striking out with. And so I'm trying to push like a 2-for-1 only because
you want
AJ
Breece Hall?
Brown, yeah. And I'm willing to let go of AJ Brown and another receiver that'll fill you up, and you have that upside for AJ Brown, and you have plethora of other running backs that could fill in that slot. I'm definitely open for a 1-to-1, but I just want to see if there's any appetite at all to consider a 2-for-1
for Breece Hall.
For Breece Hall, with basically AJ Brown plus for Breece Hall. Yeah.
Breece Hall is running back 22. I picked him in the 4th round. He is averaging around 12 points a game. He has Denver, Carolina, Cincinnati, then a bye week 9.
So that's a favorable schedule.
It's pretty favorable. Denver, it's a little hard against the run, but he's definitely used all the time. Pedro wants that. I want wideout depth. I lost Malik Neighbors. I have Diggs and Olave. A 2-for-1 would mean I'd have to drop someone, so I drop Slayton easily. I just don't know. Would you do a Dunze and AJ Brown?
No.
I think that's too much. That's the one I would be interested in.
That's the one you'd be interested. Okay. Is that the only scenario you do a 2-for-1 for? Or is that the only scenario that you would let go of Breece Hall for?
Let me look. That's definitely one I would do. How do you feel about Pittman?
I love Pittman, but is that someone else that you would want
AJ Brown
with AJ Brown?
Yeah.
You know what's funny? This is where we're at with AJ Brown, where it's like I can't, like, I would do a
1-for-1, but I think if you want Breece Hall, I see so much more value for him.
Yeah.
It's tough to let go of Breece Hall for AJ Brown. Though I believe in AJ Brown, like I don't need it. Like I don't need it. I want it. I don't need it. So I feel like I picked him so high for a reason, and he's not going to lose his role. Whereas I have a ton of running backs who may or may not have a role in 2 or 3 weeks. And so I think that's where I'm sort of stuck with Breece Hall there. J.K. Dobbins, I'd be more interested in letting go. But like you said, you have is it a week 12? By Mageddon problem as well.
But is that something where I'm like, well, let week 12 be week 12? And
maybe.
And then
maybe. I mean, it's tough to take a loss anytime because it could just be one game. It could just be one game that does it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can't.
Like, I would do Swift 1-for-1.
Yeah, okay.
If you wanted Swift, I would give you Swift for AJ Brown. To sell Swift a little bit, he's been consistent. He has some pretty good matchups coming up.
Yeah, see,
and he's Washington, not. Yeah, he has no one behind him. You know, Kyle Monungai, Rashawn Johnson. So I mean, like, it's 10 guaranteed points versus maybe a dud. So that's DeAndre Swift. J.K. Dobbins is more consistent, but like we said, there's a problem with that. Rachaad White just boomed. He could keep this role for a while. I could do a 1-for-1 for Rachaad White.
Interesting. I think we're getting warm. If I'm willing to pay, let me see, for Rachaad White. I think it comes down to DeAndre Swift or Rachaad White, and I'm guessing Rachaad White. So he had last week 14 carries, 41 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions.
He's going to be their gadget guy, so he catches passes, he runs. Right now, Bucky is hurt for an undetermined amount of time. And even when he's not hurt, when Bucky's not hurt, he still has a role. You could see Bucky was fine, and he scored 13 points. It's just sometimes you get these kinds of games too. And then there's my boy Cam Scattaboo, who has been almost consistent. He definitely has the lead role. I think even if Tyrone Tracy comes back, he'll still be the lead guy going forward.
Yeah, he doesn't have a bye until week 14. Okay, I have made my decision for a trade offer.
Okay.
I am willing to trade AJ Brown for Cam Scattaboo.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Done.
I think you're getting a more consistent running back. I'm going to miss him because I saw the talent and I picked him up round 10. But I think you're getting a fair trade, and I'm getting the boom wide receiver I want.
Yeah, hopefully he does better when you have him.
So now that our live trade is behind us, we're going to go through coulda, shoulda, woulda for week 5. My coulda, I could have started Devonta Smith, but didn't because I was afraid of the Denver matchup. Devonta Smith did so well, and I also had Goddard in my Yahoo league, but I was afraid that they wouldn't be throwing that much. So my bet was, well, Goddard will probably get a touchdown, but Devonta Smith might also be blanked out, and instead he boomed. And so that shows me that the Denver defense is going to go after the alpha, which is A.J. Brown, but that means the secondary wideout might have a boom game. So lesson learned, I could have started Devonta Smith, but didn't. And luckily, I still won my fantasy game. I should have started a different DST than the Eagles, whose defensive scoring has been too touchdown dependent. I picked them up thinking, oh, this is going to be great. They're going to do awesome against Denver. Bo Nix hasn't been looking great. And instead, what happens? The Broncos lose and they score me a total of 2 fantasy points. So lesson learned, I need to really look into why a DST has been doing well and not looked so much into defensive touchdown scoring, as that's highly variable. And I would have started anyone else other than Jacoby Myers and Chris Godwin because they were both duds this week. A lot of analysts were saying Jacoby Myers was going to have a boom week, so I started him instead of Rico Dowdle for some reason, and I saw those points blow up in my ESPN league, and I felt like such a fool. I should have just started Rico Dowdle and rode that wave. Luckily, I did start him in my sleepy league, so I did get some of those points. But I think that is what's tricky about having multiple leagues, is that sometimes you spread the risk around, but then you don't get to boom when everybody booms together. And then Chris Godwin obviously is still hurt. He's not the same man he was. He may be a week 12 boom, but not right now. So I need to just hold on to him for a while. Pedro, what are yours?
Other than putting a healing elixir on Lamar Jackson, there really isn't a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas. But if I wanted to at least have a 100-point game, I could have put Dallas Goedert into my flex spot instead of Mims. That would have gotten me over the hump because, one, I didn't think about putting tight ends into flex spots. That thought didn't even cross my mind. And 2, he almost scored 10 points last week. So if there was any nugget of coulda, I could have done that because everyone else on my bench was not playing.
So that was the trick.
Yeah, Penix was not playing. Jackson was not playing, or Dunze was not playing, Golden's not playing. My bench was bare.
So maybe your could have is you could have looked into the bye weeks more and prepared your team and looked at best case scenarios. I think that Mims was a risky upside play for your flex, though Goddard would have, I think he has a more solid role in the offense. And so, he's going to be risky week to week. You have Ferguson already, who right now is tight end 1, and we'll see that continue, I believe, for as long as CeeDee Lamb is out. So I think it's just about covering the holes. And you did that today by getting another running back. And so I would encourage you to look in the waiver wire and to look for that other running back. There are a few, especially with Amari and Hampton hurt. Vidal is a name to look out for in the waivers because he's the next man up most likely. He's played already a few snaps. I think Haskins is not as good a running back as him. So Vidal might be the ticket for you so that come week 12, you'll have 2 running backs starting for you.
Yeah, AJ Brown. I don't think I would have been in this spot if AJ Brown did what he was slated to do. But yes, I think learning about like which players go into the bye weeks, I think in the next draft, that's something that's definitely needs to be considered.
Yeah, it you can kind of not look at it and hope it works out, but you can draft who you want to draft, and then afterwards you want to click through your lineups and just go, okay, these are the weeks I need to fill. So then as you're going through waivers, you're picking different teams, different squads. But I think you'll get there. I think the draft is the beginning of every team. But again, a lot of the things you've done have worked out great. Ferguson picking up Goddard. Lamar Jackson obviously would continue to work out. He's luckily not out the year. He might even play this week. If he does, boop, boop, like all speeds ahead with that pick. And you can now let go of Spencer Schrader. You have Penix, who might continue to do well. So I think, Pedro, you would have made a great GM, man. I think you'd have made a great scout.
Yeah.
You have so much hope in these rookies, and it may play out later. But in fantasy, I think you just need to stay in the thick of it. You have to win this week because it's a competitive league. There are no 4-1s. I think everybody's 3-2 in our sleeper league.
Everyone is 3-2 or 2-3. I don't want to be the team that's 2-4 because that's going to be a big hole to climb out of.
100%. Every week matters. All right, Pedro. So I'm going to quickly review some of the things I did to win my week, and then we're going to go into next week. How's that sound?
Sounds fantastic.
I was facing my half-brother Sergio, and he had Mahomes, Chris Rodriguez, Deebo Samuel, McConkey, Hunter Henry, Jalen Waddle, the kicker Carlson, and Kansas City's defense. If he were able to react and get Rico Dowdle picked up, or if he had him backed up already because he was a lead running back for him, he would have definitely beat me because I started Dowdle. So I saw that he was injured and I picked him up right away and I started him. That was a big reason for my win. I also relied on some of my studs. Collins, Hurts, here's Scadaboo, Hall. Olave disappointed me, and I really should have. Like I said, I could have started Stefon Diggs. I had White who went off. So I really paid attention to the injuries, and I picked up some running backs. So that helped me a lot, especially because I was feeling very down about this team after losing Malik Neighbors. But here's Diggs coming in to fill in, and then AJ Brown will also help for my upside.
Good thing I got rid of Chris Rodriguez because he did like nothing for your opponent. 0.7.
Yeah, I mean, like you could see that it was a huge death. In my Yahoo League, so this was the one I was convinced I was going to lose. I was projected to score under 100 points. 97.33 original projected points versus 107.28. I was a 10-point underdog. And what did I do? Well, I went through and I had the Seattle defense. Somebody dropped Houston for some reason. And I said, you know what? I don't really think Cooper Rush is going to throw the ball that great. I picked up Houston and I started them. And that was a difference of 17 points because Seattle ended up scoring -3. So I really helped my team by adding a great defense. Jason Myers did okay. Chris Godwin, what was I thinking? I already have Devonta Smith here on my bench. So that was a huge mistake. And I was definitely thinking I lost. I benched an awesome wideout. What was I doing? And it looked like football is life was going to run away with this, with Dak Prescott scoring 36 points. He had Marvin Harrison, Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, David Njoku, Kenneth Walker, Chase McLaughlin, and the Arizona defense. All of these are name brands, all proven players on his team. And so I had Stefon Diggs on my bench. And I started him because I had to. And he did great, scoring 19.6 points. I picked him up in the later rounds. I believed in him. I knew that there was potential. Drake London was out this week. Caleb Williams is on my bench. Rashee Rice will appear for me like a Pokemon week 7. And so my team improves a lot in whiteout over that time. But this team lost 3 running backs. Aaron Jones Sr., James Conner, and Trey Benson all got hurt and are either out for the year or gone a long time. And so picking up Rachaad White off of waivers was a huge add. I wish I got Rico Dowdle here, but I didn't. I think Rachaad White continues his role next week. And so he's plugging in my team here. I'm hoping to actually trade for Derrick Henry from my opponent this week. So I have to see what secret sauce I need there. But this team I worked really hard on, and I almost lost because of Chris Godwin. And I already had the answer on my bench, but I was very proud of this win. I did not expect it. And going 3-2 instead of 1-4 is, 2-3 is a huge change. And so I'm hoping to ride that wave next week. My ESPN league is a similar story. So I ended up winning barely. I scored 109 points to my opponent's 93. I saw that the projections had me winning by a lot. So I was just kind of having fun here. I started Hampton, who dudded because he got hurt. Allen did okay. He did what he needed to do. Judkins did about his projection. Jefferson did a little bit better. And then what am I doing starting Jakobi Meyers? Oh, it's because I traded for him and I wanted to see what he would do. It was my new toy and I started him very confident that I would still win this game. And what did I miss out on? I had Rico Dowdle on my bench. And that would have just been an easy win. Instead, it became a squeaker. And that might come back to bite me because they decide places off of points you score. So I have the same record as a few people, but I'm missing 30 extra points. So I'm going to have to really reconsider my thought process here. I was happy to trade Jakobi Meyers for an Arizona running back. It was Amari DeMarcado, and I thought I did a great job with the trade. I should have just left him on my bench, and he needed to give me a prove it game, which I think the same thing is true of AJ Brown. Give me another prove it game. I may not need you, but you're there. I have enough depth, and Rico Dowdle exploded. So I had him in sleeper, but I didn't start him here because, again, I was fascinated by this new toy. I was like, Jakobi Meyers is really high up there in the rankings, but Rico Dowdle did great. Darren Waller also showed up. I got rid of Fannin, who had a touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns, so we'll see if Darren Waller continues to be good. And Michael Pittman Jr. is just, you could set your watch to it. He's going to score 12 points every week.
Easy.
Every week.
He's the only reason. He's one of the reasons why I'm even competitive.
So he's a great pickup there as well. Week 5 is in the books, so we're ready to preview week 6. Only the Vikings and the Texans have bye, so we're going to see a lot of football. And Pedro, since we're both Bears fans, let's preview Monday night. It's the Chicago Bears versus the Washington Commanders, a rematch of last year. Pedro, I see that the line is at -4.5 for the Commanders. I think it's going to be a bigger blowout than that. The Commanders just defeated the Chargers easily. What do you think about this game?
Man, I just remember last year when we played against the Commanders, and that was the beginning of the end of Eberflus.
It sure was. He lost his job basically off a Hail Mary, and he's currently with the Cowboys hanging out with the bad defense that he's creating over there. So goodbye, Eberflus. I do hope for better things for you, but yeah, that was definitely a tough loss. And the Bears did their first in-season firing of a coach in their history.
Yeah, they won't be doing that again this year with Ben Johnson, but I really also don't see the Bears getting very far with Washington. Jaden Daniels is too good. I'm so surprised that him and Caleb Williams came out of the same draft class because it's kind of night and day. He's just set. The team is set. All the pieces are together. The Bears are doing well. They're doing better this time around, but I just don't see them getting past Washington. They beat Harbaugh's Chargers, and he is regarded as one of the best coaches in the game.
Yes.
So if they are able to get through that team, what chance do the Bears have against Washington? The best chance for the Bears to win would have to be that Daniels doesn't play well. Like, not that we would be able to contain him. Like, he just makes executional mistakes. That's really the only hope that we have to do well.
I agree with that. I think the Bears record is really 1-3. That Raiders game was terrible. They only really beat the Cowboys, who were without CeeDee Lamb. They let a JJ McCarthy rookie beat them at the end of the fourth quarter in week 1. And since then, it just feels like the team is still incomplete, Pedro. I agree with you. I think for fantasy, we're going to see Jacoby Krosky, Merritt, and Roman Dudze continue to do well. But as for this game, it's going to be a tough one to watch. I do hope that some magic happens from Ben Johnson, but I'm not counting on it.
The Bears right now, at least to me, are the Arch Manning of professional football. Whenever whenever we go up against a really good team, we just can't get it done. But when we go up against limping teams like Dallas and Raiders, we're pretty good. But when you go up against a well-coached Washington team, a brilliantly coached Chargers team, those are the types of teams that expose weaknesses. 100%. And a lot of our weaknesses are going to be a lot of the Bears' weaknesses are going to be exposed this week.
I agree with that. It's too painful to talk about anymore. I'm moving on to the next game. 2 4-1 teams, the San Francisco 49ers and the Tampa Bay Bucks. It's a 125 on the West Coast game. It is basically a coin flip, which is very surprising because the Niners are very much injured, but they're a very well coached team, and they won versus the LA Rams in spectacular fashion. And the Bucks also had a squeaker versus the Seahawks, and so we're gonna see who's better. And I think the Bucks take this because Mayfield is fantastic. He has not regressed really. His team is rolling. They have Emeka Egbuka covering up any kind of issue. Bucky Irving is hurt, but Rachaad White just steps right in. This is such a great team to watch. And the Niners, I think, are going to run out of steam with this one and lose this game.
I can see this being the preview of the NFC Championship game. San Francisco, for all of its injuries, have been amazing with roster construction. Like, Mac Jones has been playing like unbelievable. 3-0, getting it done. There's been a lot of talk that he might just straight up replace Brock Purdy, which is not unusual for the 49ers to just replace their quarterbacks like that. We saw that when they replaced Alex Smith with Colin Kaepernick. We saw them replace Jimmy Garoppolo with Brock Purdy. So I could see Mac Jones leading the team all the way. And this would be a great game. Baker Mayfield has revived his career. And I think that the defense has been good. And Tampa Bay has been tabbed to go all the way to the Super Bowl this year. And I really think San Francisco is the one team that can get in their way.
I agree with you. San Francisco has been very surprising. Christian McCaffrey, out of some miracle, is still alive and able to play football. As long as he's good, this team has that X factor to beat any team. They are too well coached. And like you said, they're not afraid to make big choices. If they're going to go with Mac Jones over Purdy, they're going to do it. They're not going to care who gets paid more money. That's not for them to be concerned about. That's for the front office. So best man up, it may be Mac Jones. And I think he's going to be on a different team next year because I don't think they're going to let go of Brock Purdy anytime soon. I think that he would be a great fit over at Cincinnati. But, Joe Burrow will come back. So we'll see. But Pedro, I think that's a great take. I I think that the Bucks handle this one, but it could be a surprising game.
Yeah, so I would predict that San Francisco pulls it out 24-21. It's going to be just a huge, it's going to be the battle of the two pretty good quarterbacks. And I think you just watch out for San Francisco because George Kittle is going to come back soon. And I think that this is going to be a great temperature on whether or not both teams are for real.
100%. They're both sitting in first place on both their divisions. So this is a great game to watch before the Bears game.
I also have Tampa's defense, so they better do pretty well.
Ooh, that would be it for me. I would look for a different defense this week, Pedro, but that's up to you. Up next is Kansas City Chiefs versus the Lions. This game is very interesting to me. Kansas City is not 500. They have as many losses already than they did last year, right? They only lost twice. And so the Kansas City Chiefs have 3 losses. They lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this Lions team looks like it has so much firepower, yet they are the underdogs here. It started off with 1.5 in Kansas City Chiefs favor. Now they're moving it to 2.5 points. What gives, Pedro? Is the Lions really going to lose this one?
Well, I think it's because Kansas City still has Patrick Mahomes, and Jacksonville barely beat them. If Trevor Lawrence stayed on the ground and if any defender from Kansas City laid a hand on him, it would have been game over. So it's the way that Kansas City have lost that I think Vegas is still putting them, as the favorite this week. That being said, my opinion is I think the Lions will win this game because they are motivated. Kansas City is on the downslope of their dynasty. All their players are tired. All their players are over it. And I've seen this before where teams or dynastic teams that have come off a lot of success. This could be potentially the beginning of the end for Kansas City if they lose this game.
100%, Pedro. I agree with that. This could be the end. If the Lions win, the Chiefs go 2-4, and I think they have some interesting questions to ask themselves about what pieces they're missing. I think that Mahomes has been able to carry them, but missing that true go-to, Rashee Rice on their squad has really impacted this team. Xavier Worthy came back last week and they looked awesome. And then the next week he was held in check. So this team is really aching for some star players. Their running backs are just serviceable. Hunt had a good run, but he's over 30 years old at this point. So they're missing a lot of pieces. And I think Mahomes has been the tarp to cover it all, but he can't do everything.
No, and Kansas City defense has always been pretty good, but they've never stood out. Detroit has a lot of firepower, so it's going to be one of those games where this could be a blowout in Detroit's favor. And a lot of people are going to lose money betting on Kansas City. If Patrick Mahomes doesn't play the game of his life, I don't see this ending well for Kansas City.
I do see a lot of points. So anybody in fantasy on these teams, start them all. Start all of them except for probably the defenses. Mm-hmm. But they might surprise and get a defensive touchdown. But all the offensive players, it's wheels up. It's going to be a lot of points scored on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
All right. I really wanted to preview this because this is 2 hapless teams, 1-4, Tennessee Titans versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I wish Jamar were here for this because this is a tough one. The Titans won versus the Arizona Cardinals when they shouldn't have, literally handing the ball, dropping it at the end zone, doing everything they could to lose this game, which might be the confidence boost that Tennessee needed. And right now, the Raiders are only favored by 4.5 points. It dropped from the open at 5.5. I think people are nervous about how bad Geno Smith has looked. And I don't know, man. I mean, like, this is a tough one to call because I could see the Raiders doing the same thing like the Cardinals, just giving the game away.
Yeah, this is the slop bowl this week. It's just it like Arizona just gave that game away. Like I've seen on social media the busted run, the busted touchdown at the end, and it just speaks to more on how badly coached Arizona has been. I don't trust any team that has Geno Smith as their quarterback. I just don't think that he's ever been good. I think they missed out on getting Joe Flacco on their team. I think that would have been a pretty good trade partner. I think this is a coin flip because both teams are abysmally bad, but the Titans do have a young rookie quarterback that has been doing pretty well. And it's just, I just don't trust Geno Smith at all. I don't trust Geno Smith to drive my car. It's just like,
wow, that's saying something. I mean, this should be the Raiders easily, but they could do what the Arizona Cardinals could do. I think that the Raiders do win this one. I think this is a get right game for them, though we've said that a couple times already. They haven't gotten right, and this is a get right game after losing in excruciating fashion versus the Bears. I saw that play out. I think that the Raiders do take this, or Geno Smith is benched and they're looking for another play caller from here on out.
Yeah, basically.
And the last game we'll preview is the Chargers versus the Dolphins. Now, the Chargers should win this easily, but their star running back, Omarion Hampton, is hurt, which breaks my heart. He's in my ESPN league, and the Dolphins are completely lost. They're almost as bad as the Jets. And who knows, man? I mean, I think that the Chargers come back and make a statement that they're not done yet. But Pedro, what do you think about this game?
Well, I think the question now is whether this is going to be the game that gets Mike McDaniel fired. It's just, the team is just not good. Tua is just not a great quarterback. The team fell off after 2022, and I just don't see how there will be any traction on the Miami side. They're going up against Jim Harbaugh, and I just don't think they're going to have any answer to it. Or this is another one of those games where everyone is going to expect the Chargers to just myrtleize them, but it could be one of those games that buys Mike McDaniel another week or so,
100%.
Yeah.
They had no offense. The magic of those two first games with their quarterback looked like he was going to be an MVP. Ladd McConkey finally started to show up in this game, but hadn't in previous weeks, but they had other wideouts overperform. And so when we look at this roster, Justin Herbert came out the gate looking amazing and now is regressed and has become inconsistent. And so that might spell some doom. Without them having a solid running game, they could just blank out the wideouts and they could be up for a surprising loss versus the Dolphins. This is a save your job game for McDaniels, but he doesn't seem to care anymore. I'm curious if, Waller will continue their streak. It should be an easy Chargers win. If the Chargers don't get beat up last week, I think the spread is over 7 points. And of course, losing Omarion Hampton's a big deal. So start everybody. This should be a high scoring game, much higher than I think the 42.5 has here. And get your popcorn ready. We're going to see if Mike McDaniels is done in the NFL or not.
I think you'll see what he'll say in the press conference. If he's like, I'm just here until they let me go, then that, his time has come. So if it's not this game, it will probably be another game because I don't see Miami sticking with him any longer.
100%. That wraps us up for week 5 of Color Commentary. We're heading into week 6. Good luck out there. Keep trying. Even if you're 0-5, there's still hope. You got to just grind to win and get your first one in. Pedro, enjoy my Cam Scattaboo. I took care of him, and now I have your AJ Brown problems, but hopefully he does get back to form soon.
And I hope I don't lose by 20 points this week. That is my goal.
100%. We just want to stay competitive. So stay tuned. Keep listening to the Color Commentary Podcast. Make sure you follow, subscribe, like, and share. We're just starting out a mom and pop, but with your help, everyone will know the Color Commentary Podcast is where you come to listen for the best tips and fun in fantasy football you could ask for. And Jamar will be back faster than a Raiders interception. Good God, can they please bench Geno Smith?
Please. He's terrible. Happy footballing, everybody.
See you next week.